Everything in this trailer makes perfect sense, is probably what I'll say about a month from now when the DLC is released. Looking back, this trailer will explain everything, but at the moment, I have so many questions, especially about this particular scene. This teaser is clearly highlighting one of the most significant events in this universe. The truth is right in front of us, yet it's impossible to fully comprehend it at this point. They're teasing us. I hate it. I love it. Let's break it down. This trailer unfolds in 3 parts. First, there's the beginning where gold emerged and shadow was born. Next, we see the ensuing war with Mesmer reducing a city and its citizens to ash. Finally, we see Mela in the present age, preaching a hidden truth about the beginning to his followers.
Mela the Kind spoke of the beginning. The seduction and the betrayal. An affair from which gold arose. And so too was shadow born.
To start, this is Queen Maica. The bracelet and these armbands are a perfect match for her jewelry and this piece of artwork. But what exactly is happening here? The first shot shows Maica pulling what appears to be hair from what looks like a corpse. The hair seems straightforward to explain. I think these are runes of the Elden Ring. Compare these threads to the ones seen in the cinematic where the Elden Ring was being repaired. This is Maica's hammer, and its description states, "The hammer partially broke upon shattering the ring, becoming splintered with rune fragments." These threads are very similar to the rune threads seen here. So I believe Maica is essentially looting runes from a corpse, perhaps somewhat like what we do in the actual game. From this point forward, please remember that a lot of this is speculation. However, even if this speculation is incorrect, I think this is still a great opportunity to discuss and familiarize ourselves with concepts that will likely appear in the Land of Shadow in one way or another. So, here goes. I don't believe these are just any runes, nor do I think this is just any corpse. The first thing this mass reminded me of was the attire of the Godskin enemies. The color, tone, and thick folds are very similar to skin and fat. Additionally, we can see horizontal stitching at the edges, reminiscent of the Godskin Stitcher, a weapon that references the creation of the Godskin attire, which is peeled and stitched together from God's skin. Considering that only Maica's hand is bloody and not further up, she's clearly reaching into something visceral. But what exactly is she doing here? Obviously, it's too early to say for certain, but I want to comment specifically on the shape these threads are making. They are being pulled into a downward arc, a potent symbol related to the Elden Ring. There are 2 downward arcs on the Elden Ring. One is at the bottom, explicitly a rune arc, a basin in which the blessings of the Elden Ring pool. The more relevant arc, I think, is at the top. This arc creates a symbol iconic to Maica, seen on her scar seal and in her crucifixion at the end of the game. It's also seen in the trailer and at the end of the trailer, with gold flowing between the 2 shadow trees. YouTuber Quillag mentioned early on that Maica's seal seems to subvert the Rune of Death. After defeating Malekith, you would have seen the Rune of Death, which was once part of the Elden Ring, delivering destined death to all until Maica the Eternal removed it and sealed it away. According to Enya, this rune was plucked from the Golden Order upon its creation, and indeed, Maica's age became defined by its defiance of death in all things. So I wonder if the Rune of Death is connected to the subverted symbol of Maica we see here. Understanding the Rune of Death is crucial, as it has significant implications for the Godskins. Now, I might be at risk of veering too far down a tangent based on a potentially false premise, but if what we see in the trailer is indeed Godskin, it could have major implications for this scene. Let's explore the idea that this is Godskin, just to see where it takes us. The leader of the Godskin nobles and the Godskin apostles was the Gloy Queen, who, like Maica, was an Empyrean, someone chosen by the Two Fingers as a candidate for godhood. Items describe how she was defeated long ago by Malekith, who was Marika's shadow, meaning she was essentially defeated by Maica. However, the exact nature of their clash is unclear. We don't know if the Gloy Queen and Maica were equals, rival Empyreans, or how control of the Elden Ring was divided between them. But we do know that, in the end, destined death was sealed, and the true power of the Gloy Queen's black flame was lost. Maica had won. One rather wild piece of speculation is that this body could be the Gloy Queen's, considering the Godskin, the rune, and the war that Maica won against her. But this theory hinges entirely on the premise that this lump is Godskin, and that might be a false assumption. Of all the characters we know in Elden Ring, she seems the most likely candidate. Yet, I actually think it's more plausible that this is a character or entity we've never encountered before. There's a tempting impulse with Elden Ring lore to explain the story based on what we know, but the truth is, From Software will introduce numerous new characters, concepts, and names in the DLC that we've never heard of before, and these will shape our new understanding of the game. Therefore, it's equally likely this could be some old god we've never heard of from whom Maica took runes, or the Elden Ring. Speaking of claiming the Elden Ring, the soundtrack you can hear in this scene is the Elden Beast's theme. The Elden Ring became the Elden Beast, which we face as we attempt to claim the ring, so perhaps Maica is doing something similar here. The Elden Beast's theme sounds distorted, as if it's cutting out. I wonder why that is.
Maica the Kind spoke of the beginning. The seduction and the betrayal.
Seduction and betrayal certainly fits Maica's history. Rennala comes to mind, champion seduced by Radagon, who is also Maica. Their marriage settled a war Maica couldn't win. Afterward, Rennala was abandoned by Radagon Maica and left broken. Maica wins again. So I wonder if this seduction and betrayal mentioned in the trailer could also apply to the Gloy Queen or other past rivals. The next line refers to it as an affair. The wording makes it sound scandalous.
An affair from which gold arose.
Could Maica have used Radagon to play that seductive trick twice? For that to be true, Radagon would need to have been one with Maica from the beginning. Maica's torso here appears more masculine than expected. A better clue is the hair. If you look closely, there's a strong reddish tint to Maica's hair, especially at the back. However, I think it's more likely that the trailer refers to Maica's seductions and betrayals in a broader sense. The Erd Tree and the Golden Order are inherently very seductive concepts. They were advertised as an age of endless bounty and eternal life, but that was a lie, and the truth is surely more sinister, clearly. So where is this place? It appears to be at the border of two worlds, seemingly filled with corpses and viscera. It's almost as if this mountain of corpses forms a sort of gate. From our perspective, you can see a golden sky within and a gloam-colored sky outside. Presumably, the reverse would be true if you looked in from the other side. Initially, I thought this dark world might be the land of shadow, with the light world representing the heavens or something similar, and that the lands between could be named the Lands Between, because they perhaps grew from the border of these two realms. Is that even possible? Alternatively, this could be the Land of Shadow, with the lands between being the golden world beyond. What do you think? Here comes the next wild theory. What if this towering structure is the Erd Tree in its primordial form? It would make sense for the Erd Tree to have grown at the border between worlds, appearing golden in one and shadowy in the other. The biggest piece of evidence for this idea is that the primordial form of the Erd Tree is known as the Crucible, where primordial life was blended together. We know the Crucible became the Erd Tree's vital energies. We've never seen the physical form of this Crucible, but we have a few hints as to what it might look like. The first comes from the gilded Great Shield, which states that the red tinge in the gold coat mirrors the primordial matter that became the Erd tree. There's also a great sword of a crucible knight with a red tint, exemplifying the nature of primordial gold, close in nature to life itself. Lastly, red mushy root resin appears at the Erd tree's roots, and this towering structure features a very red blending of life, given all the viscera here. So could the crucible literally be a blending of lives that gave rise to the Erd tree? In the end, all we really know for sure is what the trailer tells us. This affair, this beginning, gave rise to gold and shadow, and a war followed sometime after. What followed was a war unseen, one that could never be put to song, a purge without grace or honor, the tyranny of Mesmer's flame. This part of the trailer is a bit easier to explain. We see Mesmer's forces marching within the castle seen disintegrating in the previous gameplay trailer. It's a bloodbath, and it looks like Mesmer's forces met little resistance. Perhaps the residents weren't expecting or prepared for a purge. Mesmer stands over the battlefield, directing snakes of red-black flame below. If you need to learn more about who Mesmer is, check out our previous news video, which speculates more deeply on his character. Suffice it to say, he is considered to be on equal footing with the other demigods and children of Maica. That's the official quote, and he's almost certainly a child of Maica, given his dialogue in the previous trailer.
Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light?
In this new trailer, we see him purging part of the Land of Shadow, presumably on behalf of his mother, who wanted no songs sung about this land or war. Earlier, we speculated that Mesmer might be a child of Maica and Radagon, considering his red hair. While that's likely true, we didn't speculate on when Mesmer might have been born. As far as we know, Radagon made his first public appearance in the Liurnian Wars and had children with Renala, then again with Maica after abandoning Renala. However, it doesn't make sense for Mesmer to have been born that late in the timeline, since the purge likely took place much earlier. So, what if Mesmer was born outside of wedlock? What if Maica Radagon conceived Mesmer ages ago? In this early age, Maica might not yet have had Godfrey to fight her wars, but did have Mesmer. In this context, it might have been a brilliant political move to use Mesmer to usurp the Land of Shadow in his tyranny, and then lock him away in this veiled land to rule. This could have solved several problems at once, especially considering how blasphemous Mesmer might have been to Maica's rule in the lands between.
What followed was a war unseen. One that could never be put to song. A purge without grace or honor. The tyranny of Mesmer's flame.
Though again, this is just speculation. As expected, the Wicker Men march on Mesmer's side and will have to fight one, as seen here in the gameplay trailer. A recent tweet states, "The sordid sins of war still walk the realm of shadows, even as their victims search fruitlessly for recompense." The brunt of Mesmer army consists of extremely well-disciplined masked soldiers wielding spears, led perhaps by these knights in black and gold trim. They look a lot like this knight fought in the gameplay trailer. In the next scene, we see the Lion Dancer smashing aside two of Mesmer's soldiers before it confronts Mesmer himself. In the shot to follow, we see the flame he's conjuring in response to this assault, followed by three large impaled bodies. As you might already know, the Lion Dancer is actually made up of three bodies. And so the implication here is that these are the three bodies with long cloaks that were puppeteering the Lion Dancer in the previous scene, before Mesmer killed and impaled them. Now is a good time to note that many on the receiving end of the Mesmer's purge have what look like Omen horns. The creature on the stairs has them too, and its robes look a lot like the ones worn by these enemies in the previous trailer, who also have horns. As discussed at length in previous videos, Those with Omen horns can be linked to the primordial crucible, and the crucible talismans make it clear that horns and other such aspects were once considered signifiers of the divine. It seems this was a culture and an idea that Maica wanted to stamp out, since she probably had new ideas about what should be considered heavenly. This is probably why the almost genetic reappearance of Omen horns during her era was seen as a bad omen, to her at least. Maybe these horns were an element of the truth hidden beneath the surface, coming back to haunt her. The only one without horns that we see on the receiving end of Mesmer's flame is seen here, a feminine figure who seems to be holding some sort of undulating blade. Is this a spiral weapon like so many others in Elden Ring, or is it maybe a sort of banner? Anyway, she's the last in this video's long list of atrocities for now. Next, let's talk about Mela, who seems intent on bringing the truth to life.
And so kindly Maica would abandon everything. His golden flesh, his blinding strength, even his fate. But we are not deterred. We choose to follow. Will you walk with us?
One question I'm curious about the answer to in the DLC is how did Mela become aware of what happened in the beginning with Maica? My answer for now is that Mela is quite like Maica in a couple of ways. For one, he's considered to be an Empyrean with the wisdom, the allure of a god. Maybe he's quite capable of thinking like one. Another similarity is that Mela literally tried to grow his own Erd tree, watering it with his own blood since it was a sapling. What if this gave him an insight into how such trees were supposed to grow? And if we're right about this being the crucible, perhaps Mela realized the sheer amount of blood that would have been required for the Erd tree that already exists. So out of everyone, Mela could probably figure it out. A few items actually consider Mela to be a genius, and he's called a prodigy, so his ability to puzzle out the truths of this universe make good sense. In the face of these truths, he abandoned everything, and these sacrifices clearly have a purpose. We don't understand that purpose just yet. But take these scenes, for instance. These markings left behind are in the shape of a great rune, something that Mela would have had. And surely these are Michaela's own great runes that he's leaving behind, presumably for us. At first I thought that you might be able to rest at these, like sites of grace, but in a recent promotional image, it's been revealed that grace still exists in the land of shadow. The previous trailer says that Mela is awaiting his promised lord. That's likely us, though it's possible his followers each believe that it's them, as they're clearly following this hallowed land that Mela has left behind as well. And here they are, a veritable band of the Hawk, presented with this uplifting surge of music in the trailer, Michaela's faithful compelled to follow him. Surely all these great NPCs aren't going to suffer horrific, terrible deaths, right? Right? We've already seen 4 of these NPCs in the previous trailer. There's the knight, this warrior, this tanky guy, and the masked one. Previously, the masked one was actually seen sleeping in what we suspected was a swamp of St. Trina. And since then, we've received confirmation from Miyazaki that St. Trina will indeed make an appearance in the DLC. And sure enough, here they are now in the trailer, St. Trina presented in the context of things that Mela has abandoned, his golden flesh, his blinding strength, and even his fate. Considering St. Trina is falling in this scene, holding their arm up to the light, at first glance I assumed that this is the fate that Mela was leaving behind, abandoning his alter ego. On second thought, though, we know that Mela is abandoning his golden self, so perhaps it's more likely that St. Trina will be all that's left. But since they're showing up, I assume we'll eventually uncover the truth. All of this is quite speculative, I know. It feels like the closer we get to understanding, the more questions arise. But if nothing else, I think this has been a good chance to refresh our memory of what to look out for in the DLC. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to check out the link in the description for a limited time offer on Elden Ring and the upcoming DLC. Your support means a lot, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future updates. See you next time.